Dr. Bowman. We can see already how dramatically hockey has changed over the years and the decades. So what changes do you foresee in the game in the future?
Well, they've made big changes in the elimination of the obstruction. Like Peter had mentioned, they're always striving to try to get more offense into the game and more goal scoring. And I think you have to be very careful of any rule changes because you don't know the impact it can have on other situations. When they took the red line out a couple of years ago, everybody felt it was going to make the game wide open. But basically what has happened is the coaching is very sophisticated now. Each staff has at least 3 or 4 coaches with goalie coaches and psychologists and video coaches. So there's not much that teams don't know about each other. I find that with the center line removed, the teams that want to play a real strict defensive game, they protect. They don't forecheck as much as they did when I first started coaching in the 60s. And the biggest change I've seen is forwards that skate backwards now equally as adept as defensemen. And when that helps the defensive side of the game. If you watch teams play now, the forwards generally are skating backwards between the 2 blue lines, watching the oncoming offense coming at them so they can react and make the right decision. So there's a lot of defense maneuvers in the game. And you see teams now when they get the puck, there's a lot of long passes that go from behind their own goal line, especially when teams are protecting a lead. They'll just whip that puck as fast as they can, and they can go all the way up to the other blue line, and then that player just tips it in. It goes behind the other team's net. So there's not much chance for any interceptions or any counterattacks. And I wasn't sure when they took the center line out. I was kind of a proponent of putting a line at the top of the face-off circles in their own end, that the team would have to reach that position before the center line was removed. But we tried it in some other leagues, just summer leagues. It was hard to really implement it, but there is something that has to be done about continually thinking about how can we create offense. Teams now, they all collapse down in front of the goaltender. You have like a goaltender, 5 other guys who play like goaltenders, and so they've taken the scoring area. It's tough in the NHL to score goals on teams that are well disciplined, well coached. On the other hand, when you're that far down in your own end, you've taken the offense away from your team because you have a long way to go. When I first started coaching, the wingers would stay up high near the other point men, and they would make sure that the defenseman couldn't be in the attack. And if the teams made some bad mistakes on the attack, they would get that puck near the blue line, and they didn't have as far to go. There was a lot of outnumbered rushes. So that's the big change in the game I see today. Is the teams, they all funnel back and they cover that scoring area, and it is tough to score goals. And like Peter mentioned, the goalies they're big now, and it's an ongoing process of what they should do to change the game, and you got to be very careful what they do because it could have an impact on how the game is played. So I'd say whatever they do, they have to be very thoughtful and experimental. And I guess there's a summit coming up this summer, but I think generally they've made some great additions to the game. It's an exciting game to watch when two great teams are playing. And now with all these great teams, you see the cream of the crop, and the goaltenders are very athletic. That all these teams, there never was European goalies. They play their own style because they've grown up on wider ice surfaces, and they have to watch the cross ice pass. But every team in this tournament has a goaltender that could win that final game if they could get to it.
Great, thank you. I actually had a question for Mr. Stastny, if that's all right. You mentioned how warmly Canadians are responding to hockey these games, and I was wondering how you would respond to all the criticism that's been coming up, saying that hockey is overshadowing the other sports.
overshadow better for us. No, it's just, I don't know, hockey is a winter sport, whatever the conversation is being understood recently that moved the hockey to the Summer Olympics. I mean, that's other nonsense. They're not actually, I know you Browning, but actually they were talking about it as a serious suggestion in order to kind of accommodate league and IHF, but you know, that's the greatest problem you can have. As long as we overshadow another sport, and more we do it, as I said, God bless ice hockey.
Absolutely. Thank you. We'll move on to the next question, please.
Hi, Christina Stevens from Global National News.